Përshëndetje Motra.
Music and the Trime podcast.
I'm Leonarda.
I'm Lejla. Welcome home. So we have a guest in the studio with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Our dearest friend Donika.
I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Music and the Trime podcast. So let's start off. Obviously, we know you, but they don't. So tell them a little bit about yourself.
So I am Donika. I'm 33 years old. I was born in Kosovo in 91, but then we came here shortly after, I think 92, and I've been living here ever since, which is why I've got such a strong English accent.
You grew up in London the whole time?
Yeah, grew up in West London the whole time. So there was a group of us that came para Luftes that stayed in Edgware Road in Clarendon Court Hotel and Mishal Meeting, and that's where we stayed originally until we moved to West London. Just off the Harrow Road, actually.
Then you moved from there. So you've been in London the whole time?
My whole life,
What was it like growing up as an immigrant kid?
Oh my God, it was such a battle, actually. And now that I look back, there's a lot of mental health that is associated to the way I found it difficult, but there was always this code of at home, Kosovo. So the rules applied at home. And then in school, it was like a completely different culture and then having to fit in there. So you had social structure out here that didn't adhere to what my parents or what was meant to be taking place like home. Yeah, it was really, really hard.
We say that all the time, like having two identities. You were one person at school, and I think if your friends had seen you at home, they'd be like, who is this person? Yeah, literally, who is this person at home? Absolutely. It was so difficult, like having those dual identities growing up.
And then you end up with a personality identity later. So.
All having an identity crisis.
Yeah. You don't know where you fit in. You don't know where. So growing up, did you have close ties to the Albanian community?
Not very. There was like a couple Albanians in the school that I went to, but in terms of like after school activities, no, we didn't really mingle with them much. There was a big community where we lived, but we just didn't mingle with them much as a family. Yeah.
Did you? Because when I was really young, we had an Albanian school every Sunday up in Wood Green. And my dad would take us as often as he could. Did you guys ever do that? Did you ever have anything like that?
No, I had Islam school. My mum took me out of it because she thought it was going to bring the Arab culture into it.
That's generally what happens to be the case when anyone wants to do something Islamic in our community. It's always who's she going to marry? You know, that's the first thing that will go to their mind. When I was 17, I started wearing a scarf. Looking back now, it wasn't. I can see how and why I made those choices, but at the time I thought I was really doing it like for the right reasons. I'd moved from West to East London. Everyone wore a scarf. Everyone had a routine, making wudu, praying and so on. And just like in school, primary, I didn't really fit in. This was another crisis thing where I just wanted to fit in again. So yeah, I mastered through wearing the hijab and becoming part of a community out in East London that I wanted to be a part of through Islam. And it was purely innocent. Like, I do love God. I've always loved God. But the way some of my family members were like, oh my God, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you know, have you met someone? Are you trying to join something? We just want to make sure you're doing it for the right causes or the right reasons. So yeah, that was a journey in itself. And then I stopped wearing it, again, for personal reasons. And then I was met with the same kind of, I don't want to say animosity, whether they were happy or not, I'm not sure. But there is this, you know, oh, she wore it now, she took it off. So as a person, they might not take me seriously anymore.
It's like, kom diqës going with my
basically,
but it's also
but no one's
ever
damned
said
if you
that
do,
you're damned if you don't. Like, you can
Catch
never
22.
actually do the right thing ever. But and no one ever thinks like, oh, she's just doing it for herself regardless. Because I mean, like, I'm not religious. I've learned so much about Islam from Leo. And I've learned actually about how personal the journey with the hijab is. Like, I had no idea.
It is such a personal journey. Like, me personally, I wouldn't force it on my daughters. I've got two daughters. For me, it would always be they will have to find their own journey to it, and I'll follow whatever they want to do. But it would never be like, oh, you have to wear it. No. But modesty is obviously important for the world that we live in anyway.
So because you mentioned you've got two daughters, were you previously married?
Yes, so I got married
with someone in the faith
outside,
or in the Albanian community?
Outside of the community. Right. He is half Indian, half Mauritian. So even that, going back to like the Norse culture, the way we're raised to get ready for this in law and Norse.
Yeah.
You know, So yeah, I was ready for this life that I was going to perform as I was taught to perform. And then I got married and they were like Kreit Kunderton, like the complete opposite. Like I didn't have to do nose med, I didn't have to do no cleaning, none of that stuff. Like they were so chill. They would make me tea. If I ever got up to the kitchen to go make something to eat, they'd make me something. They'd be like, no, you sit down, we'll make it for you. I remember calling my mum like, yo mum, like this is happening, I don't know what to do, are they testing me? Like, and she was like, what? I was like, yeah, they're being extra kind. And I didn't know that in-laws are supposed to be that nice because of our culture. But yeah, it took a while for me to get used to come out of that.
And what was that like, blending the two cultures together, but then also having the faith in it too?
So faith is always the common ground for sure. There weren't no intermediate problems because he does his part and they do their part for their culture and we do our part when it comes to our culture. Yeah. So they get the best of both worlds, yeah, for sure.
And when it was time, I guess, like to blend and tell your parents that you weren't going to marry an Albanian man, what was that like for you?
So my parents aren't together at the time of me getting married as well. And I'd always told my mum, because of the situation at home, that, you know, I wasn't going to marry an Albanian. She would laugh it off. Everyone would laugh it off. Like, who would take it seriously? But I was also kind of like pre-warning her at the same time because I was dead set of not wanting to be a part of this culture. I really wanted to escape it, assuming it was just like, you know, all Albanians, I guess. Because the nice Albanian men were my mum's side of the family.
Same.
So where am I going to marry someone in my mum's side of the family, you know? So to me, it was like universal except for my mum. Because the men in my mum's side of the family are like no other. Like the way they pull through, it's really, really insane. Like my uncle played a huge role in our lives, and the way he caters to my mum and even me as just an individual is he took a role as a boy that he never had to take. But he did that because I think that's the family unit that they have.
Yeah. And also it's the family values that actually are at the core or what should be at the core of our culture and our community. But obviously we know through time and through violent practices, it's taken that away because really the thing that we are the best at is that community feel, that collectivism, that helping each other out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's such a shame that there's just so much violence that has been practiced to women and girls in our community. And I hear you so much because that me and you relate so much on that. Like growing up, I was the same. I was like, is this it? Is this what my life is going to be like forever?
It's like a crossroad.
Yeah.
And no matter where you go, it's like another hurdle, another this, another mask, another addition to put on, another, you know, it's just so long. And then we have so many ideata as well that we have to adhere to as females. So, yeah, I'd like to say I broke a lot of boundaries, definitely. And not intentionally like I was trying to be a rebel. My mum, she's my everything. I never wanted to do something where, you know? So that was really important to me. So no matter how rebellious I got, I always remembered my mum in the back of my head. And I never wanted to do anything that would ever like ruin our relationship more than anything. So that was something to hold on to.
Now that you are in this relationship and you are raising your daughters with two different cultures, do you now pick and choose the Albanian adeta that you now expose them to?
I absolutely do. So they're only children at the moment, so like young. There's only so much that you can incorporate. But like, you know how we go around and shaking everyone's hand? That was something that we were like forced to do as children. Otherwise, like the adult would get upset. And I remember thinking as a child, but what do they care? If I'm not shaking their hand. And my mum would be like, it's more, cool. Myself, I don't do that as when they were small, but now my eldest is 10 and she's so very much the first one to put her hand out. Because I've given her that freedom and the choice, she now has her boundaries. So if there is someone that she doesn't want, and again, I don't care if she shakes your hand first and the second person she's not on it, I'm never gonna never. And we've built trust through that.
Because it's always like adeta. It was always like you go in, you firstly shake the men's hand, and then it's like actually an order of who's the eldest and most important. And you're like, it's exhausting trying to remember. I can't remember for the life of me.
I go from the oldest, and if I don't know who's the oldest, whoever looks the oldest, all the men first, and then the women. I still do that. And it's so bad. They're like,
Do you know, like, for me, yeah.
And it's just bad.
The one thing I hated cooking, I passed myself in because, like you say, like you have to come downstairs, talk to everybody, answer a million questions, but the same question every single time.
Çüşelel, ayemir, çüşeki moment, çüşeki babin, çüşeki vlasnit, çüşelel, ayemir.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Constantly.
But I guess, like, for us, it was, especially in our culture, it was like a respect.
Yeah.
Like, definitely a respect thing. But also giving zero choice and autonomy to children. Like, no even regard to say, like, do you actually want to shake this?
As well.
Right. Do you feel comfortable? Because there's so much stuff, like, with me and Bella that, for me, the number one thing I take and implement from our culture and our traditions is family. Is that family, is that togetherness, is that unity. Because, like, when I met Dan grew up as, like, an only child, and it was like trying to integrate the two upbringings that we had were a little bit difficult for us at times, because it was very much like she was used to being on her own. She was used to kind of not having a big family and not having much people to share love, joy, and just things with. And then she met me and Bella, and all me and Bella do is share love, joy, happiness, things, food, everything we do. Now, I'm always like saying to Dad, well, it's a bit different now because we've been together for nearly 3 years. But in the beginning, it was like trying to integrate the two. That is the one thing I will always carry on throughout my whole entire life. Any relationship I go into with my children is always at the family is at the core, like at the heart of what we do.
Always. That's like my daughters, they tend to bicker a lot. You know, they're at that age of like, no, they are the best of friends, but God, can they argue? But I always instill, like, your sisters are so important. It's a bond there that you can never replace. Like, with your sisters and me and my, like, I would die for my sister, like, honestly. And I'm trying to instill that. But I feel like sometimes I'm doing it so much that it might, like, backfire.
No.
Yeah, that's my only fear. But the way, like, sisterhood is everything. I can't imagine life without my sister. Yeah, my family especially, but my sister's my everything.
Yeah, sisters are... I've got 3 and they are...
Your baby.
Oh, now I've got 4 with Lejla.
Yeah.
And
I've just forced her to adopt me, even though I'm older than her.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like...
I've adopted Lejla, Dan and Bella.
We've all adopted each other. We've just become
Now
like...
they are
Familia
Dauti. Like, they are everyone.
And that's exactly, I guess, like, what so many of us were missing, because me and Leo say this all the time, like that Trime now, for me, very much so is filling a void in my life, like filling that sisterhood, that feeling of belonging somewhere, because growing up in the diasporë, as you say, like, you were one personality at school, one personality at home, and it was like, where do I fit in? Where do I belong?
Exactly. And I remember we spoke about this older sister syndrome.
We do.
And I know you said you know, your sister is the oldest. And you're so close to her. And I said to you, the relationship you have with her is the relationship my youngest has with me.
And I praise you.
And we got so emotional.
Proper. Because I the way I love my sister is unreal, but she plays the role of my sister in her family. So I'm like, I'm speaking to you as a younger sister. Like, be proud of yourself. Your siblings.
You're older than me, but
no matter what they go through in life, there's a void that they have with you, or there's something with you that they're never going to be able to replace. Like, even your mom, no shade to the moms out there, but like, the way you played a huge role in their lives, they'll forever be indebted. It's never about debt, but they'll always feel like they're forever indebted. And may God always keep you that close and togetherness, because
I mean,
life without siblings is insane.
But you know, that's the thing. Me and Lejla until we met each other, we didn't have anyone like that for us. So now we've got each other. And that's why, like, I got really emotional, because yes, my sisters are part of me. Like, it's as if, like I said, like cutting one of my fingers. That's just how it is. But now that I've got Lejla, I've got someone that I can actually lean on and talk and open up to, because we're so busy being a sponge to everyone else.
Who's your sponge, basically?
We've become each other's sponges. And
I do cry for my sister the same way. Like, oh, no one's ever been there for her like that. So So I'm sorry for the younger
but
sibling stress
no,
on behalf of younger
no.
siblings. I'm going to take this one for everyone. I do apologise in advance, but we love and appreciate you guys for everything that you do. I promise.
I hope my brothers are watching this and taking heed of this appreciation.
Yeah, and I hope my sister's watching this and I'm making her proud as well. Like, you know, shout out, babe.
No, because I'm listening to you like talk, and actually it's just everything you're saying is so wholesome. I'm like, oh my God, this is because it's everything I've wished for.
Yeah.
But genuinely sitting down with two other Albanian women who just get it. Even if we have different lifestyles, it's so lovely to be with other Albanian women who we have something of the same similar mentality. There's something there. It's like sometimes we jump on calls.
Can we call it the spectrum? Or?
The spectrum. Oh no, we are definitely very much on the spectrum.
All of us.
Oh yeah. Like the ADHD in this room is like it's
off the
I'm
roof.
trying so hard not to change the subject. But
undiagnosed, unmedicated ADHD. Like genuinely, I think that's at the heart of Trime.
Yeah.
and most women actually in our culture, I feel like they're all just sitting undiagnosed.
Do you know what's so funny? Because I know that my daughter has ADHD, and I recognised that I had ADHD when I started observing her, and I was like, shit, have I been like this my whole life? And then I started thinking, hang on, but my mum was just like this and like this and like this. My mum does this, and I realised, wow, this really does run in my family. Yeah. So obviously, like, I know what it has been like for me on my end, raising a mixed race child in the community. I say in the community, for a long time, it really was not in the community at all for me. But what was your experience like?
So in terms of like intermediate family, there's no issues. Like, they love my daughters, we love them, even his family, even like just from the very beginning, he's always made a conscious effort with my mom and like speaking shtiv sometimes. Like, I do with them where I can, where I learn little words in their language. But again, it's just me. We stick to our part, but it's never been an issue, them not being fully Albanian, again, from my intermediate family. Kosovo, like, it's hit and miss. Like, you can't help but people stare everywhere you go. The chica ma there, like, she's got a darker complexion compared to her sister, so they people love to point that out. And a couple of times I have been asked, like, oh, do they have the same dad? And I was like, oh my God, excuse me. Like, I felt so offended. So there are little comments people make or stares and stuff like that. But dude, I can't say that they've said much.
Yeah, because I know that you were sharing that actually when you went on holiday this year, it was quite challenging for you, because when I went to Kosovo this year, and I went previously as well with Bella, I had really good experience. Like, I didn't have, and nobody looked sideways once, and everyone, she was treated like a little celebrity, like everywhere we went. And then when you said you had such a the experience you did, I was so shocked. I was like,
just weird. And then also the little kids, because again, this is my personal opinion assumption. I don't know if it's factual, but because they're not that, they don't have people of colour in their vicinity often. When someone does, it's like it's a bit of a chudi to them. Yeah. And they'll try and say things, but in Shtip it might come across less rude, but in English, it's like, oh, your skin. And that makes them very conscious, because what you're saying isn't bad, but it's just the way you're saying it. Maybe the words that you're using could have been used a bit differently. Yeah. So, and
I think as well, like, when children are raised, especially in diverse areas like East London or South London, they're so used to seeing many different, like, people of colour or different religions, just different diverse communities, and then going back home for children who come from such a diverse background, like your daughters and my daughter, it's like, whoa, why is everyone white here?
Yeah.
Why is everyone... Because I know like, with Bella, I always find, like, she knows she belongs. She knows it's a part of her, but there's always some slight disconnect, I think. And I think for Bella, sometimes it's the language.
100%.
Yeah, for Bella, it's the language. And even though everyone speaks English, right? You go back home, everybody speaks English. But Bella will always say, like, Mum, teach me Albanian. So my parents teach her Albanian. It's a skomnirva, for real, like skomnirva. So my parents do teach her Albanian. And when we went to Kosovo this time, she was so desperately wanting to practice it, but every time she'd go to speak, she'd
Luckily
get
she's
too
English,
nervous,
oh.
and then she'd just stop. She'd be like,
Yeah.
Mum, I can't do it. Because I hate the thought of another woman having this experience with her children.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, of course it's real,
Yeah,
and that, but
yeah.
I'm so upset by it.
Yeah, no.
You know, I'm so upset by it that I hate the thought of you going back home, because I know the anxiety I had before I went.
Oh my
like,
God, the
I
first
thought,
time we went was crazy. Yeah. The first time we went to Kosovo, I actually thought I was going to get a whole back of like racism of everyone. But I was very sensitive as well. But
I mean, we see it in the comments. Like, I get comments on my videos, like when I'm talking, and they'll be like, you deserve to get abused because you married outside the culture. What did you
Yeah.
expect? As
And
if we don't have the highest
yeah.
rates of abuse and violence
Yeah.
in Europe.
I remember one comment we got from a woman: never go against the culture.
Yeah.
yeah, I find them ones weird.
I find that very dangerous.
It's
I want to know who
so
pays
dangerous.
them. Like, you know, if you're getting a good wage to make those comments and to stay in your relationship, then, you know, like,
But
speak up.
it's like that thought of that, because you went against the culture. I hate saying that, because culture isn't violence.
No.
Culture isn't abuse. Yeah,
No.
and it should never be about that. But the reality is there is so much violence and abuse that has been practiced in our community. But violence, it should never be part of culture. And but if a woman goes against the grain, if she doesn't follow the rules, then she deserves everything that happens to her. She deserves everything bad that happens to her. As if like you're not designere, like you're just an animal.
But
and
then,
men marry out all the time as well.
yeah.
Yeah, all the time.
But then it's double standards for men.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely double standards for men.
Experience growing up with parents that are not together in the culture.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Because it was like a big thing that I can't get into, but it led to like, I don't know if ostracized would be the correct word to use, but at that time it really did feel that way, especially because we were moved outside of London. So there was no real community. Like I said, my dad pulled through in ways like he didn't have to, but we didn't have anyone, even if we wanted to. And we were placed somewhere in Essex. Everyone was white. And we were back to being like immigrants, even though we're like full-blown British. And I had the most English accent, but we were still very much like stuck there until we got situated where we were in East London. But no, I don't feel like anyone stepped up or stepped in, or even for my mum, did anyone check in on her? I don't know. I can't say that anyone did. But it was very much because I had been a rebel up until that time, and because I had been a bit like, and it was all because of the stuff that was going on at home. I felt like I had to take it out on outside. And it wasn't great, but I had so much to prove to my mum now. I had so much trust to gain back. I had so much of a name to prove to my mum. No one else mattered. It was just my mum. So it was a couple of years of just us like rekindling that, like me getting closer to her and moving and just trying to like reset and restart life. It was hard. I can't say that no one pulled through.
It's such an important point to make, isn't it? Because I think our ethnicity is really, you can't place it anywhere.
Yeah.
Because we're white. So then everyone just assumes we're like typical Western
supremacists
white.
as well.
They think that we're just like white Westerners, but we're not. We have more in common with Asian communities and with Black communities than we do with Western white people.
Yeah.
And so like what you say is that actually being in Essex where everyone was white, I got that immediately. I knew exactly what you meant by that, because yes, we are white 100%, and we go through the world having that privilege of having white skin color, right? But that the ethnicity in us just complicates and makes everything complex.
Another problem to add to the identity crisis as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Because you can't just be... It's great to have support from someone who's not Albanian and, you know, they're like English peers, but they're never going to get it. They're never quite going to understand, because to someone who's English, they'd be like, oh, this is brilliant, you're free, you're safe. And actually what's happening for you as a family is turmoil, because you know you've completely gone against what we do as a community. Divorce was not something that was practiced. It was complete taboo. Like, I think so many of us watched our parents in marriages that they absolutely had no business being in. Like, so many of us watched our mums in horrific situations not being able to leave. And the aspect of having that community support is not just a good thing, it's actually life-saving.
Integral.
Yeah, it's integral, absolutely. It's the core of how we support women to safety. And I think if women had that, if they had that community support from the beginning, they wouldn't be finding themselves murdered by their husbands.
Or staying as long as they did,
or staying for as long as
which is why
they
Trime is
do.
so important.
Yeah.
Like, it really is important. But nonetheless, my mum made a lot out of what she didn't have, and she reset life, and she instilled things into us, which weren't necessarily like Albanian culture-wise, but just very much be independent. You want to make sure you've got this, get a job. Like, she didn't force education down our throats. I could not sit down and do coursework to save my life. But she was like, if you don't want to go to college, enjoy your punan.
Yeah.
Puna. So we had this like...
Options.
Yeah. She was really like, oh yeah, I owe everything to my mum today.
Oh.
But no,
Your love for your mum just...
I do. No, she's my ride or die, man. Like, even like doing stuff like this, she's very much like, are you sure? Don't say anything you're going to regret. Or like, you know, like she's always, but she's my number one, like, biggest supporter. She's like my biggest defender as well.
Well, yeah, because I think that relationship between a parent and a child it has to be the first safe relationship they have in their life. And then when you don't have that safety from childhood, we know that's facts. Like, it's scientifically proven. When you don't have that safety from your parents in the first 7 years of your life, it causes a lot of trauma internally that then comes out later on in life.
Yeah, which was where the borderline personality kicks in, because by the time I was about 19, I was being diagnosed with a personality disorder, because at that time I really just didn't know who I was. And it's easier to say, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I feel that sometimes. No, because I actually didn't know who I was. I didn't understand life. It was just a scary place to be in. And they're like, well, come and have a seat. Let's teach you about like being emotionally unstable. I was like, emotionally unstable? I'm like the emotional stable person that you ever meet. Like, I take on everyone's problems. I've dealt with this. I've done so much. Like, well, what do you mean? Was it emotionally unstable personality disorder? I was like, hell no, I'm not running with this diagnosis. Like, absolutely not. And they're like, but that's kind of what it is. Like, you're on the borderline of bipolar, schizophrenia, because you've bottled up so much. And they're buying us sham. And then we put this mask on, and then with or without mental health, this identity crisis of Kosovo indoors and the Western outside, and it was just, I
couldn't relate more to what you're saying. Like, so much of that that dual identity of my upbringing affected me. Who I am. Like, I've been in therapy for 5 years trying to recover from that shit.
And recovery's long.
Recovery is going to be lifelong for me. It's going to be lifelong, because what people really negate and what we don't discuss, and I know we discussed it with Amira, but it's coming up again, is actually how much mental health is a taboo in our community.
So much of a taboo.
Yeah, like,
oh my God.
taboo.
When I was younger, I told you, innit? So everything that people would say about me, good, can't show, this, that, everything that you could say, halit, you name it, is all like these spectrum things that are in children, like the black and whiteness. And I used to say things without trying to be rude, but it came across rude because I was being so upfront about things.
Yeah. Stop it.
Sorry, it's not funny.
And I'm so sorry to my family for having to share this, but it's so funny. I can laugh about it now. But at the time,
bruv.
And they did this thing where, like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, she's got some sort of nazar on her, and, you know, yakan don haimalin, you know, that thing that's wrapped around in like sellotape, like, and they're like, make sure she wears this everywhere she goes. And lo and behold, I'm like, bro, you lot probably put magic on me then as well. Not my parents, but the people.
Yeah.
Because that's not...
and this whole time it was actually that...
Yeah, ADHD.
You were on the spectrum, and not that you had some crazy evil spirit attached to you.
I swear to you, it was insane. Even when I started anger management in school, like, I was so passive, but I was in anger management because of my outbursts and the meltdowns that I would have. And my mom, like, now... she understands. Now we have such a good relationship when it comes to like mental health, but at the time she was like skomdit, skinadit, you know.
But we know that, and that's the reality, because for real, mental health and neurodiversity wasn't a thing.
And it's this concept of I'm bringing it back to like marriage. It's this concept of
yeah. Oh, God forbid.
Who the hell is going to marry you if you're sick?
I know. And we talk about marriage so much in this podcast, but I don't think people understand. Unless you're from the community, you don't know how much you're beaten with it from the day you are born as a girl, that everything you do in life is to get married.
100%.
From training, the minute you start walking and understanding, you are being trained.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my mum didn't even do it that bad, guys. My mum wasn't, because she really was trying to break the generational stuff. So she wasn't even like that. But yeah, like from Mommy, can I do this? Yeah, when you're in your husband's house.
Yeah.
When you're in your husband's house.
Can I get a tattoo?
Yeah.
Literally.
Tattoo, bruv. No, I was see my none of that. It wasn't even kushkoshte buri. It was always like ingrained in me, like you have to get married. But if I ever opened up the topic of having a partner,
shut down.
Yeah, shut down immediately. Like for me, I never had that openness at home. Like it was like there's no way you weren't talking about boys, you weren't talking about anything like that. Like
never.
You were just expected to somehow magically just get married one day. Yeah.
But bearing in mind they had that whole Sid culture as well, so you got married to someone that was suggested to you. I got a lot of proposals.
Did you?
Yeah, like as soon as I hit like 16, 17, people were like, oh, Diole, Nipe, Koshike, like someone. I'm just like, Mum, please. But again, she was my mum was very much like, she did the Islamic thing of, I have to let you know that these people want to marry you because that's my duty as a messenger. But the minute I said no, she was like, sorry, lady, she's not on it. Like, shoot. My mum was cool, man. But no, I bloody hell, proposals. I was like, me? Like, oh. Yeah. Like, they want to marry me. I'm just a child still. I'm just a baby.
I mean, it was the thing as well, because when Donatella came on and she mentioned, like, I got to the age of 15 and all of a sudden I was like, shit, like, I'm now going to be on the path to getting married because... And so many people tried to say in the comments that wasn't a real thing that happens to women in our community. I was like...
But it does.
But it does. But it absolutely does happen.
Yeah. Again, it's the value of a woman in our culture. A woman, the biggest accomplishment that a woman can do is get married and have kids. Yeah, that is the biggest accomplishment.
And clean
and cook and
be a good daughter.
Touche buriam atiloi kond.
Who's washing anyone's feet? Never.
I think even if I married an Albanian, I could never. No way. That could never be me. No, to come on a nervat for myself, let alone someone else. I swear to God. Can you imagine? And they just puntilon juice, ADHD. I start one thing and I leave and I go somewhere else, Again, my mum, And I was like, oh gosh. So I'm having a hard time with all of me up here.
Yeah,
like
the
five
I can't
of
stand
me.
myself, bro. Like, who's even thinking about getting married when I can't even stand being with me?
It's so funny.
Exactly.
Yeah, but have you noticed, like, naturally when you are in that like relationship, you do become that butterfly and you do become that catering person out of the love that you have, not because it's like, your mum's telling you off in the corner. Again, not my mum, but just the way you've been ingrained. But speaking of, I remember he would do hoovering at my mum's house in Otran Ukraine. He came around and I was like, I'm like, why, mum? I've done with she for the to leave him. Yeah. Like, no, Mara, why? Who's watching?
Yeah. That happened a few times actually with my ex-husband as well. Like if my mum came round and if he just got up to do the dishes, which was always for show, by the way. For him, it was for show, so that everyone thought that
someone's coming. Yeah.
But my mum would say,
Literally.
Exactly.
My mum called me at work. I was working in an office and I was like, hi, mum. And then she was like, "Pachish, no kekev shi panese, buri o to chun sabah on every side that me pine koffe, I tufshi." And I was like,
"Mom,
literally,
I was like, "Oh, mom, prachitsani tum thir bike."
Of all things, if the house burning, no, mum, okay, bye.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? I do wonder sometimes if my mum ever looks at me and thinks like, thank God she has all this freedom. I do wonder if...
I think she does.
Yeah, like...
I can guarantee you she does. Because you're strong.
I wonder if our mums think that.
Yeah.
Of all of us.
Not might be a bit of regret, just a little bit of... Just a little bit like...
Like, yeah.
Like,
My mum calls me demokrate. She's like, chica tu mia and demokrate.
No, mine would just say you're uchupish.
My mum, she always says like, she always says, because I've just done everything against the community, the culture. Yeah, my mum always say, you never know what a mother's love is
until you have a child.
Until you have a child.
They're all in a group chat. They're all in a group chat because they all say that. I'm telling you, yeah, they all say that.
Yeah, they all do. Like my mum's always like, you never know a mother's love until your child puts you in a position that is impossible.
My belly's churning just at the thought, because I feel like if even just 1% of my BS, I think I'd lose my mind. And I've got 2 daughters.
What if your daughters were like
you know, I wasn't bad, but bloody hell.
Yeah, but the thing is what you're saying is you were behaving like that because of what was going on. Yeah. And we know with children, again, this is psychological as well, we know with children when their behaviour changes and they're projecting and having outbursts like that, it's mostly because there's so much turmoil going on inside them. So recently I had this incident at school where the teachers called me in and they said, you know, Annabelle, she's settling in fantastic into her new school. However, she's really disrespectful with the adults. Yeah, she's really disrespectful with the adults. And I think she'd experienced so much bullying the year before, and where her teacher was also enabling the bully instead of supporting her, she thought, nah, no one's going to take me for a dickhead in this school. So she went in there and thought, I'm going to tell everyone no one's going to take me for a dickhead in this school. But that's the only, I guess, like, traumatizing experience that she's really had in her childhood, because she was really young when I left her dad. So that being bullied for a year and then your teacher allowing the bully to bully you is really traumatic for her. So she then thought that all teachers are going to be like that. So when she went to this school, she was going to like make her stance and so that no one's going to bully her. And I remember we were in the office and I said to the teacher, I said, look, Bella was there. I've got really open relationship with my daughter. Like we talk really openly about our emotions. I said, I know this isn't something that my daughter would just do. I also know that when my daughter, her behaviour changes is because something is happening internally. And the teachers were like, whoa. So I said, Bella, do you want to say what it is that's happening inside that's making you behave this way? And immediately she went, it's just such a big change. I miss all of my friends and I was bullied for a whole year and the teacher and that. And she told the teachers everything and the teachers were like, and they were like, well done, Annabelle, like, well done, because even adults can't articulate themselves in this way. And I say that to say, you'll worry about your daughters, but they're not the same as how you grew up. And they're growing up completely differently.
In safe environment.
Because you're choosing to put your safety first. And I just like, it's unsolicited because I know you didn't ask for reassurance, but as a mum, I can't help but give you that reassurance.
No, of course, you know, thank you. No, so you're right. I'm having like this light bulb moment as you're speaking it, because that is just exactly something my daughters would say. Like they build boundaries better than I could ever.
Oh my God, 100%.
Like even now, I still couldn't return something at the shop, but my little ones would be like, I don't like it. I want to send this back. Or they'd be like, they're just so strong within, I don't like this person, or I don't want to play out anymore. And they're just so strong within themselves. I'm so proud of them.
Bella's exactly the same. And she'll tell you, like, even when she wants comfort, like if me and Dan are comforting her, she'll be like, or we try and give her like guidance or advice. She goes, I don't want your words. I just need a cuddle. I just want you to listen to me, mum. I don't need to respond. I just need you to listen. Or like, she'll openly say if she doesn't like something, or even for example, because you're only human, sometimes you're on your period or you're having a bad day and maybe like you're speaking with not a lot of patience, you know, like perguto, or you just raise your voice. And then she'll say, don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to me like that.
And in the beginning, I found it so hard not to feel disrespected. Like, who are you talking to me? But then I'm just like, you know what?
Because you've got your Albanian. You've got your Albanian.
Like, no, we are going to control ourselves because she has every right. Yeah. Because the way I was speaking to her was not their fault. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's about like when you have grown up with so much trauma in your childhood home, you then have to parent yourself in adulthood. Oh my God, and then you're a parent to children before you've even been able to control your own emotions, before you've even gone and done all that recovery and healing for yourself through therapy. And then you want to raise a child who didn't have the same childhood as you, but that actually comes with a lot of, it's really difficult to raise children in a completely different.
So true.
Yeah, no, but it is
so hard. Like you heal all over again. Firstly, my thing with parenting was, now I'm a parent, I could never have done or be anything of what my dad was towards us. Like absolutely never not. So the whole, was I good enough? And what? No, there's no way a child is not good enough or undeserving of love and safety and security. So no, I started to realize it wasn't me. I was actually amazing. I was this, I was that. And it was more like pushing that blame onto the person who deserved it, because it was all you. You were this monster, not me. And then that helped me with this, because I wouldn't even shout at them because I felt like my dad. I was like, oh, cool, I shouted too much. And then I'd go around like...
Oh my God, I've had the exact same.
Yeah, but then they can manipulate you kids. They'll realise like, hold on a minute. Mum's screaming and shouting. And then, so I had to change my game as well. And I had to tell myself that it's okay to shout. It's okay to discipline, because kids do need that a little bit. They need that fear factor. But I like the respect more. Like I like to... I get told I forgive my kids' options all the time, but the options are still within what I want them to be. But here's your options: take them or leave them. I gentle parent with a bit of spice,
with a little bit of Albanian spice. But I do the same. And for me with Bella, it's about, I don't want her to fear me. Nothing good comes out of fear, and I say that all the time. You can't wholeheartedly love or respect someone if you fear them.
Absolutely.
And giving children that choice is allowing them to think that to believe in autonomy. And when those children think they have autonomy, they grow up to then be incredibly strong, independent human beings who take absolutely no shit from anyone else.
Even when it comes to hugs, even sometimes they don't want to be cuddled. I'm like, okay, would you like mommy to give you a hug? No, okay. It hurts a little bit, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm your mom, you should want me. But no, that's fine. I'll give you your space. If they want to have a mad moment, go to the bedroom, throw your softies if you need to, get that, and whatever it is that you need to do to regulate yourself, I'm here for. Even
for me, it was difficult because for crying and loud, and kids who make loud noises is really triggering for me. I really, really struggle with it, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. We were told to shh. I don't know what it triggers, but it's really triggering for me, even if it is my own child. And I have had to learn. I've literally had to train myself to be like, when a child cries, or even if they're just playing and they're shouting, do not tell them to stop. No. They're not doing anything wrong. So if Bella is just roaming through the house and she's just making loud noises, what's she doing wrong? What is she doing wrong other than expressing a part of herself?
It's because we were always told to be quiet. Sure.
But I'm still learning that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, but you're not going to get it. No one's going to get it overnight.
It's still...
No one's going to get that overnight, especially when you're carrying your own shit. No one's going to get it. You need to give yourself grace as a parent as well.
It's just hard, no matter what you do, you always question yourself, because you want to make sure you do it right. You can't go back. You can't go back and change things.
You can't.
And I have lost my shit a couple of times. So it's learning how to even be a better version of myself. I talk to them all the time. I tell them, listen, mummy's this way. I'm still learning through you. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm sorry for the mistakes that I do make. And they're very understanding. I'm so blessed with my girls. Very, very blessed, alhamdulillah. But it takes a lot of questioning. Yeah.
But if you weren't, you wouldn't be human if you weren't questioning yourself. Do you know what Bella always says to me? One day we were walking to school, and she said, Mum, you know how parents always say they're watching their kids grow, but kids are watching their parents grow too? Yeah. Oh, and that one sentence changed so much for me. I was like, oh my God, she is my little mini me. We are growing up together.
And a lot of the things that we kept from our mums today, I want the same for my kids. I want them to be like, oh, my mum, and only give the beautiful things. I don't want them to be like, oh, my mum struggled, or my mum went through this, or I want them to just remember mummy being cool and happy, and I have to live to tell a sad story. Because I'm open about my mental health, but I'm trying to be a good example of, yes, I've got this, yes, I've struggled, yes, this, but I've never used it as an excuse to not do better and be better, or to use it as an excuse to let the rest of my life crumble.
It's an amazing example to set. It's an amazing example to set, especially as being a woman in the community who didn't follow the rules. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that fear that you have of your daughters growing up and being just like you're saying, a rebel just like me, and they will have that in them. I know Bella. I've seen Bella. She's already got that rebel inside her, that she hates any kind of injustice, she can't live with it whatsoever, but it's going to be different for her.
Absolutely. And we're going to support their decisions as well.
Yeah.
In ways that, not saying that, my mum did support me from a very young age in school. She was always there backing me in school meetings and whatever, but had the language barrier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's always something that, oh, I wish my mum could have a bit more, but the language barrier like hindered that a little bit. But for the kids, it's different. Like when I had them in school, the school knew they couldn't mess with me as a parent.
Yeah.
Like absolutely not, for the smallest of things. Like
I'm
I was that mum, and I didn't. And even when I went to them with concerns, they were like, "Oh, so there's nothing to worry about." I'm like, you know what? You don't actually care about my child, so let me pull her out and do what I think is best for her for now, and then we'll revisit school at a later date. Yeah.
Have you found that you've seen an improvement in her?
100%, like a complete 180. She was such a like timid and sensitive child in public because of like the mask she had to wear in school and not being met at school. Whereas now I know if I did send her back to school, she'll be okay.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, she'll be able to hold her ground much better than I could ever at that age.
But I think also when kids know that their parents have got their back, because I've done the same. Like I put in a massive complaint to Bella's old school, and Bella knew that I was fighting tooth and nail for her at every single opportunity. She then feels like, my mum's got me. Like she's always going to be there for me. And that's how you build safety and confidence and those really stable attachments in children. You let them know that you're there.
No matter what.
No matter what, you're there. Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing.
And no beats coming at home and that.
But this is what I'm
waiting
saying.
for you. No puffle chair, none of that.
This is what I'm saying, because imagine being a kid and life is already hard. Like you're a kid, life is hard. You go to school, other kids are mean, they chat shit. You hate your teachers, you hate school. Life is hard for a kid.
And then you got to go home and your parents.
And then you go home and your home environment isn't safe.
Yeah, and those, just not even in our culture. It's sadly like a common thing that in London,
for children, it's so common that children, I think, like their autonomy and their mental health is never taken seriously, and it's something that I'm really passionate about.
Same.
I'm really passionate about listening to children and doing what's best for them to keep them safe.
Yeah, because they turn out into better adults. They don't have to carry so much trauma that we now carry in our adulthood that we are trying to work through and heal from. That's really what Trime is trying to do. But
they're going to be the next generation. They're going to be leading things that we could never.
And they will, because they'll see like their parents doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you especially. No, you lot are doing big moves and I sound so proud.
Stop it.
Every little activity on social media, I'm like, yay! And I'm so obviously extravagant. Have you noticed with my emojis and shit? I'm cap locking all the time. I'm like, I need you to know that this is genuine, you know? Like, I don't laugh at people's memes when they send them to me unless it's funny kind of thing.
We love you.
I always look forward to what you lot are going to post.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, like, because obviously we knew you before we started this, and I think to bring our sisters along on this journey with us who knew us before Team, which is crazy.
It's amazing.
You knew us separately and we didn't even know each other.
And do you imagine, I popped up to her when I saw that you were working together on this. I was like, no, there's one more person that you need to, and it was Donatella. And then you're like, oh no, we've got that.
Yeah, we've got that on lock.
Like your first guest or something. I was like, oh my God, look at that. Like, it's like that gift of discernment, I call it. No, I'm here for it. So much success is going to come from this. You see how I'm working behind the scenes, but no one's getting back to me. But they will. They will.
You are literally like our secretary. Like
you're doing God's work.
Honestly, God's work. Yeah. God's work is happening in Donika's hands right now.
We're trying, honestly.
So if you see some big A-listers on our podcast, it's because of Donika.
I'm only trying, but I'm not going to stop. Someone's going to pull through, I promise.
It's just so I love it, like knowing that there was nothing here 2.5 months ago, and now look.
Now we've got everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And we're just we're really blessed to have you.
Yeah, and the 17th is coming. It's going to be a turnout for sure.
Sunday 17th of November at Feather Lounge, our first live fundraising event. Come and support bring your mums, bring your sisters, bring your aunties, come and support the community.
We will.
We've got Tapana, we've got a DJ, we've got a belly dancer.
She's always mentioning Tapana. I'm so excited.
Do you know why? Because I always say, I always wish to have like a proper Albanian wedding with a topanji, everything. So when we were doing the event,
come on.
So when we were organising with the event, the owner of Feather Lounge said, oh yeah, we can get to Angie. I was like, do that.
Yeah,
do it. Put that on the list.
Imagine Lejla, Demi and Legso and Dan. That would be something.
Well, I have offered my services as wedding planner for both.
Yeah. Literally.
No pressure, babe. No pressure.
Just get your big fat wallet ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a mother that's raising daughters but has come from a very closed culture like ours has?
I would say most definitely do not be strict. I know you want what's best for your child, and me, when I first became a mum, I had all these rules that my kids were never going to do, and they're only 10 and 7, but I've still relaxed a lot more because I realised I had an epiphany one day, a flashback of this gentleman once. He was doing an experiment and he was holding sand and he gripped it so tight, but the sand was still coming out from his the gaps. And he's like, well, that's what it is with children. Like the stronger that you hold on to them and the more that you try and force yourself onto them, the more that they're going to escape through the gaps. And even when it comes to religion, culture, whatever, I tell the girls, ultimately, it's you. It's your opinion. It's your judgment. You're going to be accounted for. Karma comes your way alone. So whatever you do, make sure that you're convicted within your actions and you feel strongly about what it is that you're going to do. And just know that I've got their back.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what I would do. Build trust with your children. Build some sort of safety. Just to make sure that they know no matter what, because kids are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Kids are going to fuck up.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because that's just life. And I'd rather my kids know that they can come to me no matter what they've done, knowing that, yeah, they might get in trouble later, but for the first part, I'll get them out of that trouble, as opposed to them being stranded somewhere, not being able to contact home because they're worried about what you're going to do or say to them. So the first thing and the most important thing I always tell everyone is not to be too strict in every aspect, when it comes to religion, when it comes to life, when it comes to whatever it is, because they're going to do their own thing. And the more you push, the more they'll...
I think that is what you said is just hits the nail on the head. And just for all the women that are listening to this right now that did grow up in abusive households, and let's just leave it at that, not go into detail, but it's something that I relate to deeply. And that sand analogy was exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, and likewise with the majority of us as well.
That sand analogy, and you've articulated it so perfectly. Thank you for making us feel so.
No, thank you for having me and making me feel so welcome. I was so nervous in the beginning. Look at me, I didn't want to leave. No, but it's been so fun.
Listen, one day we're going to have our own studio. We're going to be able to record for hours and hours. We're going to get everything.
We'll hire a man. We'll hire a man to do his
Listen,
net
if the
for us.
community keep getting behind us, we can achieve it. We can achieve it.
Exactly. 17th of November, Feather Lounge. Kurbanji, belly dancer, DJ, and we're going to have food and drinks and a guest panel.
And we're going to have a live guest panel.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Join us. Come and support the community. The proceeds are all going to go back into our community work, and hopefully we're going to be able to transform Trime into something that is really, truly going to be able to serve Albanian women.
Speak it into existence. Yeah. It's a law of assumption. You have to speak as though it's already happened. Yeah. There we go. So speak as though it has happened. We are. Yeah, you are
going to do it,
and then it will happen.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And again, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.